Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Mollie Carmichael with Zonda's Inspirational Leadership Series, joined by the industry's best in all things real estate. These leaders are literally designing our future for many generations to come with new communities, home designs, technology, retail centers, infrastructure, and so much more. This series is about who they are, how they got started, who inspired them, and their journey to the top. So let's get started. Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today, we are joined with Tony Avila, the co-founder and managing principal of Encore Capital Management and chief executive officer and co-founder for Builder Advisor Group. He's an overachiever from the very start. He's got two companies, and you're really going to love Tony's story. You're going to love his leadership style. It's really impressive. But before we start the interview, I just want to do a quick little intro on Tony. Tony's actually been in investment banking going back as far as 1996. Both companies practicing since 2007 and 2008. So he's really been in this a long time, almost 30 years. He and his teams are definitely doing something right too. If you look over the past 25 plus years, Tony has served as an advisor in over 85 home building merger and acquisition transactions valued over $12 billion. So companies like LGI Homes grew from a small boutique builder, thanks to Tony, into one of the fastest growing home building companies in the country. The Builder Advisor Group team has solved some of the most complex capital raising assignments, including project and corporate level debt, equity, preferred equity, mezzanine debt, and so much more. Let's hear the rest of it from Tony himself and how he's leading the company today. So please join me in welcoming Tony Avila.
Tony, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Molly. I feel real lucky to be in the same group of Ross Perot Jr. and Ryan Marshall. Eric, you've had just amazing podcasts.
It's been a lot of fun. And every time I do one of these, I learn so much. And I'm excited to learn from you today too. So let's get started. Well, tell me as we start out, tell me a little bit about, what you do, what is your job on a day-to-day basis, and give us an idea. You've got kind of two sides to your businesses here. And I remember going way back with you. You've done some amazing things. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and a little bit about these two different groups.
Sure. Well, we have Builder Advisor Group. I started in the industry back in 1996. And really, I started in real estate in 1981. I started working with my father, my grandfather, and my two uncles. We were investing in income-producing real estate, all in Northern California, apartments, hotels, office buildings. And so I'd always been involved in real estate. I started working in real estate investment banking at Montgomery Securities in San Francisco in 1996. And then my big focus there, everyone wanted to work in tech. And I didn't want to have any, if I touch some technology, it breaks. So I went as far away as possible. I said, I will do real estate. No one wanted to do real estate. No one wanted to cover the home builders. And I said, I will cover home builders. And I also got golf. So I was the golf and home building and real estate investment banker. So that's what
sounds good to me.
Yeah, it was great. I was a really avid golfer at the time and loved doing it. And so that was our advisory business. Now, when the financial crisis hit, one of my business partner, Art Falcone, who's a wonderful mentor, been an incredible inspiration for me. We sold Art's company back at the peak in 2005. And then in 2008, when the financial crisis hit, we said, what's our Encore? He had just sold his business, and the investment bank I was at, we had taken it public. So we said, what do we do next? What's our Encore? So we formed Encore Capital Management, and that's our principal investing business. So there we've partnered with builders, partnered with developers. We've bought land. We're selling lots off to builders, mostly Florida and California, but also we've got a wonderful partnership with Hayden Homes up in the Pacific Northwest. Art and I.
How did you meet Art?
Falcone and I met at the Builder 100 in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2000. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, so we had met there, and I started calling on him down in South Florida, and he said, "You're my banker," and I started working with him in 2000. We got the company either ready to take public or to sell it. We do the prep, basically the 10Q or the S1 regularly, and we ultimately just said we're selling it. And when in late 2004 he sold 256 houses at Independence in Orlando at his grand opening weekend. In one weekend, 250 something houses.
Wow.
And he called me up on Monday and he said, sell the company. So, I got teachers buying 5 houses. And some of them,
Wow.
they said they were teachers, but they weren't really teachers. But anyway, we won't go there.
Yeah, there was crazy stuff happening. I remember.
Oh, yes.
So tell me about the 2 different groups. How did those form?
Yeah, so Builder Advisor Group, when the financial crisis hit, I sort of decided I needed to kind of just start over, refresh. I started up, and then ultimately I had a couple of other buddies who are investment bankers. We started up our own firm, so we got registered with FINRA, so we're fully licensed broker dealer, and we just started one by one. You start working with clients that needed help. So we really were born out of, okay, it's a recapitalization, it's restructuring, debt workouts. So we started working in that. Standard Pacific needed an infusion of capital. We got hooked up with a private equity firm. Art and I actually helped out in that recap. We also were very involved, weekly. We worked with them on, we had raised capital for them pre-financial crisis, and then we said, hey, we could buy that debt back at a steep discount. So we did that for weekly. We did some amazing deals. Then there was also just a merger of necessity. These 2 companies, this company really kind of wants to sell, needs to sell. Let's put 2 and 2 together. So we also were doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and that's how Builder Advisor Group really grew. We're closing in on our 100th M&A transaction in the builder developer space, which we're excited about that. And that's how the advisory business got started. And then we, at the same time, when the financial crisis hit, Art and I said, let's do Encore. So we started sitting down with both high net worth family offices, but then also ultimately some very significant insurance companies, pension funds, endowments, foundations, hedge funds that have backed us over the years. And we've done 5 funds. We've put about $2 billion in capital to work over that last decade.
Wow.
That's 12 years now.
So it's like you hit it almost at the perfect time too. I mean,
Yeah,
timing
been a good
is a
run.
big part of it too. That's crazy. Is Art still involved in the business?
Very much so. Yes.
Nice.
Wonderful partner.
Nice. Well, tell me, let's go back. I'd love to know kind of how you grew up, where you grew up, all that stuff. There was a lot there, but I always sort of go back to age 8. So who were you then, and what did you want to be when you were growing up, and tell us how you kind of fell into this business.
At age 8, that's when I started work. Actually, I got my Social Security card at age 8.
No way.
I started, my father was a pharmacist. He had drugstores. So you had, of course, the pharmacy, and then you had a lot of retail out front, all kinds of things like an old Rexall drugstore. I started working at my father's pharmacy at age 8. He had several pharmacies that I'd work at, and Saturdays my grandfather would take me bowling, and then after bowling it would be straight to the pharmacy to work, and I would work several days. I'd work after school. I saw his work ethic, and he instilled that in me, and so that was my age 8. And then of course everybody would ask me, hey, do you want to be a pharmacist like your dad? And I said, no, I want to go into business, but I want to strike out on my own. I don't want to be a pharmacist. And while I was in college, my father sold out of the pharmacy business. He didn't want to do that either, after 25 to 30 years almost of being a pharmacist. And he focused on real estate, which has been my passion too. Housing Americans, that's where when I started working, I really wanted to work in investment banking in the housing sector, and housing's our passion. People ask, what's our Housing Americans? That's what we like to focus on. But
so he shifted as a pharmacist to then going into real estate.
So he had already, so he had his square job was pharmacy, and then he was also with my uncles and grandfather. They had always invested in apartments and other commercial real estate around. We grew up in Fremont, California, so investing in Northern California. I'm a native Californian. My great grandparents all came from Italy and Portugal. as I probably tell you, this is my family tree on the Italian side, going back
Wow.
700 years. So my Italian
So it goes
grandmother,
back to what year, Tony? How far back does it go?
1300s. was planted.
1300s.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, Lucca, Italy. We have Lucca and Genovese in our roots on my mom's side, and my father's Portuguese. And but my so interesting on the Portuguese side, my great grandfather had Spanish land grant land that he had bought, maybe once removed. He bought 40 acres for 5 gold coins in 1885, and we have the deed.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's in
40
Fremont.
acres for
Yeah,
5 gold coins.
yeah, actually adjacent to where the what is today the Tesla plant in Fremont, California. And that land today is probably worth about $40 million, ironically. So from
Wow.
$1 million an acre. So
New translation of coin.
yes, yes,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Wow. Well, what a legacy. So everybody's been in real estate. So it's in your blood.
yes, yeah, very much. Yeah, it's kind of funny because my dad does rental houses, and he actually has my son just started working in our business at Builder Advisor Group and Encore Capital Management. But my son is managing the rental house. I skipped over me, and my son's managing him, and my dad is mentoring him to be a rental house manager. So it continues.
How neat is
My
that? So,
daughter's a junior at USC, so if one of the guys, women watching this program, if they don't hire her, we may get Katrina may be here as well, and I'd be honored to have her if that's her decision.
that's pretty neat. So as you went through high school and college, how did you decide to kind of go the direction you went? Is it really because your family was in it? I mean, how did you
Yeah,
decide that's what you love?
yeah.
A
So
lot of times people will kind of go away from what the family did, right?
right, and I kind of did in a way because I went into investment banking.
Right.
So that was definitely away from, but it ended up being in real estate and investment banking, which of course is somewhat connected to the family business. And what happened was I went to Berkeley and ended up coming out of Berkeley working at Anderson Consulting, and ultimately I wanted to focus in financial services, which was a real passion. And so we worked at Capital Group down in Southern California, Capital Guardian, and American Funds. But then ultimately Montgomery Securities had hired us to implement some Salesforce automation. And I got the chance to work inside of Montgomery, did a good job, and they hired me to work in investment banking. And from there, that was my big entree in the investment banking world. I kind of went through it through the Accenture is what it's known as today. But it's a great way to learn about different companies when you're not sure where you want to end up. And Montgomery took a chance on me. I actually worked on the inside deal team to sell Montgomery to Nations Bank and then ultimately to Bank of America, which was a fascinating transaction. I learned a lot in that, and then focused on in real estate. Now Bank of America and Nations Bank combined, that they're the largest lender in real estate, largest lender to home builders, which created incredible. You had all these private builders that the bank was lending to, and they had no investment banker, no one to advise them on. Most builders have 100% of their net worth in their home building company, home building and land. And that's a bad diversification strategy. In fact, it's not a diversity, they're quite the opposite. So it'd be like putting everything you have in Bitcoin. Actually, it'd be better than putting it all in Bitcoin, but not that much if you look at an allocation strategy. So a lot of the time when we go in and talk with our clients, it's, hey, how well diversified are you? And most of the time we look and they have no diversification of personal net worth. And that's been our strategy is, okay, how do you get some or all your chips off the table? We've been able to do really fantastic things like for Dan Ryan, where Sumitomo Forestry came in and bought 60% of the company. Dan kept a piece of it. His other key guys in the operation, Ronnie Salome, Paul Yeager, Edwin Woods, great guys. They had pieces of the company, and Dan ultimately retired, sold out, and the other guys had a piece, and Sumitomo Forestry has it, and they grow the business, and everybody's happy. And we've done that. We did that with Wade Journey. A lot of wonderful guys where maybe they don't want to get out entirely, but they definitely know that ultimately they'd like to have an exit strategy or at least an asset diversification strategy. And that's a real passion for me. I love, okay, we've set kind of you up for life, and we've done kind of the estate planning on how does this going to work. And we've gone the other way for guys. We've taken them public, Eric Leeper, who you had on, Patrick Zalewski and Dream Finders, Dale and Rob Francescan at Century Communities. It's been a real honor. There's been sort of 10 IPOs since the financial crisis, and we've had the honor to work with the top 3 performing IPOs since the financial crisis, LGI, Century, and Dream Finders, and been wonderful to work with them. And so that's another strategy, another diversification strategy.
Tell me your toughest client or deal over the last several years.
Great question. Really, the toughest one is you have somebody that's let's say they're selling, but they really don't want to, but they kind of have to for whatever reason.
I worked on a few of those too.
We have 3 rules in M&A on the sell side: more is better than less, sooner is better than later, and don't work with jerks. Those
are great rules.
Yeah, they're great rules, and they can apply to a lot of different things. When you're dealing with anger or resentment, it makes for very challenging. And so one of the things that I'm always refreshing on this, but the latest book that I'm going through is the PMA effect, the positive mental attitude. And of all people, just to keep me, we're very much a glass half full group here. That's how you get M&A deals done. That's how you get capital raising done. But ironically, the guy who works on my race bikes, he said, hey, you're in triathlon, you need to read about the PMA effect from this other guy who kind of, to get centered, did triathlon. I'm like, oh, I read it. And it's absolutely thinking through having that positive mental attitude and surrounding yourself with the positivity, staying positive, and being able to turn that person who may have a negative, but you're going to work with that person. You're going to work with them. How do you figure it? So that's the toughest deal, and I can think through it right now, was getting through and saying, and the sons are saying, Dad, you got to do this, and which made it even trickier. So it's balancing that, and then of course managing your client who's angry with the buyer who just, hey, I just want to close the deal here, and how do you make it happen?
It's interesting. I remember in the last cycle, and I think a lot of those deals I worked on, honestly, and led through a lot of the workouts. And the very first one I worked on, which was the toughest, and I have to believe you hit this, and I'm curious as to how you've approached this, is really figuring out the value of the assets and then the value of the human asset too, right? So the human asset knows where all the bones are buried and really can optimize those acquisitions or the land itself. But there's a value to sort of the company know-how and all those parts and pieces, as well as the assets themselves. I mean, how do you kind of work through that? And honestly, I was very proud to be part of, one of those very big workouts. We were able to save the company through it with that mentality, and ran it a bunch of different ways to get to sort of the optimization of that home builder. And we could have sold off every piece of it, but we really looked at those different scenarios and said, hey, this is kind of best of all worlds. And boy, did it pay off in the end. How do you work through that?
Yeah. So generally when we're working with companies, we do focus on people. The people within our organization, they know how to take that land and turn it into a profit and build successfully and manage budgets, manage schedules. That's critical of identifying those who have a superior margin within a market. And we can see, we see builder margins everywhere. So we're able to compare and go over and really kind of focus on, okay, here's your distinctive competence. This is somebody who's very unique. And then from there, the assets, we focus on what the land, the inventory, sometimes the architecture, the what they have, the strategy, the niche. These are all things that will be a distinctive competence that we can find the right buyer or investor that believes in what we've got. For us as an advisor, the big thing is to emphasize and bring out all the positive aspects of a company and figure out strategy. Sometimes we'll advise somebody. We talked about Art's company. We worked with them for 5 years to maximize the value.
Sure.
We look at a great example would be, and you asked what was our toughest. That I will say one of the toughest deals I will think through working with LGI Homes on the first deal. This is in 2009 in Chisholm Springs, going north of Dallas, north of Fort Worth, trying to get GTIS, my good buddy Rob Varadian and Ed McDowell and Teddy Karras, getting them to believe in investing with LGI out in a really, really distant location and putting capital and convincing GTIS to invest in with LGI Homes, because here's a builder in 09 that's profitable when most builders, almost everyone, was not profitable. Here's one that's growing and profitable. Convincing GTIS to do that, I had to get a really nice table in Vegas at a nightclub and get Teddy and let's go. We're doing this deal, and my good buddy Rob Varadian and Rob and I are like best of friends now because he believed, and he sits on the board of LGI. So looking at companies, finding that company and finding what's their highest and best use and what's their destiny, the companies that will work together symbiotically and say, okay, here are our goals, being goal oriented, goal driven. Those companies you can really work with over time to maximize value. When we met LGI, they were worth like $10 million before we raised any money.
Isn't that crazy?
And
I know, I remember it all. That was
and it was John Burns, a John Burns staff member is who introduced me back when you were there. But I will tell you that they have been a absolute incredible believer in growing through what they've seen at like Builder 100. I will get Eric and I will get him to go in and say, okay, this is what you want to do to climb up the charts. And I got like all your charts right here. I was going to say, in case you want to go through the history and the target, what we do. This has been, as we look at LGI, we're like, okay, how are we getting to this top 10 list and what we're going to do? And we were able to create, LGI was able to grow to like a $4 billion market cap.
It's
up
huge
a bit now since then, but it's been one of those things where you're working with a company to maximize the value. And what do you do from capital, from people, from I've helped them out on the headhunting side, identify lots and land positions, and of course, for kind of working on 4 acquisitions, smaller deals over time to kind of grow the business. But we're working with companies to how do you figure out how to maximize the value? Same thing with Dream Finders. We worked with MHI, Frank McGuire, Gary Tesh, Coventry Homes, wonderful guys. We worked with them for 23 years. I met Frank in 1998. I think I met Gary in 2000. And we just kind of had a handshake at the right time, find something to do, and then put them together with Patrick Zalupski and Doug Moran and Beta McGaw and Annabelle Fernandez, a wonderful management team at Dream Finders. And boom, look at this. And now you've got more of a national home builder, national footprint, and frankly, on a multiple of book and one of the best valuations out there. It's a tough valuation market right now, but that's kind of how you get the synergies, putting companies together 1 + 1 and get it to 3 or 4.
So now that we've talked about your most challenging, now tell me your favorite.
I mean, I was so honored to work with Chesmar and Sekisui. I mean, that really, you were talking about, I think one of the companies that you advised and worked with, you see this international investment group, and you see that America being the greatest economy in the world, the greatest, democracy in the world, and you see these wonderful international investors from Japan or Asia or Canada coming in and saying, hey, I want to invest capital here. So being able to say, okay, let's create that national footprint. So working Chesmar and Sekisui, there were several, really just what I like to call enterprise transforming transactions. Certainly working on Art Falcone's deal getting that deal done at what that's
Sure.
the
That's
largest
the
private.
start.
Yeah, the largest, that kind of got us, but selling Art's company for 1.6 billion, that was the largest private builder sale ever. So that was, so you have all these deals that you sit there and go, wow, that was, and then that got Art and I able to, we're capitalized for the future and have a great partnership on investing in the sector. I mentioned a few other, but we just had, it's a long list of favorites for a lot of different reasons. Working with guys like Wade Journey, if you think about what we did with Wade, it's one of those fun things where you sell half the company, and then Wade basically within 2 years almost triples the value of the company, and then he sold the other half. But then if you look at what Dale and Rob Francescan have done from Wade Journey to Century Complete, and they've just transformed Century amazingly with that as a significant part of the value driver there. So it's been a lot of fun working on the advisory side. I think on the investing side, every time we build a community, you're housing Americans, we're developing apartments, and you see that certificate of occupancy and you see the move-ins. I was just at one of our properties today, and it's just so exciting to see, hey, we built this, we're housing Americans. So on the investing side, and even on the advisory side too, but it's so exciting every time you sit here and go, wow, we are accomplishing the American dream. A lot of times we're getting, pride of home ownership. We're doing a deal here in Northern California where it was tumbleweeds. Another builder had wanted to put in McMansions there, and the financial crisis hit, and it sat there for a decade. And we took it over and brought in LGI. We're bringing in DR Horton and a regional builder, DeNova Homes. We're all excited because we've now, out of something that was tumbleweeds, and literally the model homes that were built in 2007 were torn down in 2012. There was $5 million in model homes, 13 model homes. A whole model complex got built and then got torn down, got condemned 5 years later. And then we came in 2016, and today it's housing 1,000. It's 1,000 houses. There's probably 2,000, 2,500 people. So that is just, what an incredible accomplishment for our team.
So when you're starting out with a new client and they're listening to something like our discussion here, Tony, is there any sort of minimum they have to have for you to help them out? How does that work?
So yeah, generally when we're working on an advisory deal, we the minimum size of transactions that we're working on are sort of 25 million if it's a capital raise. On our investing side, when somebody needs capital, we're a minimum deal size is 10 million. So if somebody wants to borrow money from us, it's a minimum deal size of about 10 million bucks.
Okay. And then is there any sort of criteria that you look for that you say, we'll never do a deal with fill in the blank? Or we always look for deals, fill in the blank.
Yeah. Well, definitely we go back to our rules of more is better than less, sooner is better than later, and don't work with jerks. And then,
Me too, by the way.
Yeah. You're definitely you're going to look at the project margin. You're going to look at, when you go into a deal, how do you get out of a deal? That's my father taught that to me. That's an important aspect of anything, any partnership or any investment. And so that's a first thing is, okay, what's the strategy? How's this going to work? What begin with the end in mind, go back to the what you learn from the 7 habits of highly effective people, and always sharpen the saw. So that's something that we all have to remember.
So getting back to that, now, is your dad in the business at all today?
No, my dad is his birthday is today. Happy birthday, Dad. He's 84 years old today, and he's mentoring to my son, I think, on managing rental houses and enjoying the fruits of his labors.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I understand too, if I'm not mistaken, you're sort of a family of champions, but you particularly, I think, have led some championships too, correct?
Yeah, one of the things is a good work-life balance, and we have for our business here, we have a personal trainer for anyone who wants to take that on, and it's a triathlon coach. So and his wife is a
Wow.
nutritionist. So if somebody needs nutrition within the organization, nutrition advice, or you want to focus on swimming or biking or running or just general fitness, core, all those things. We have a really strong tri coach. I said in 2013, I met my now wife, and she had had colitis, and she had actually had her colon removed and had surgeries. She had almost died. And then she came back and had done marathons, and I was the heaviest I had ever been, 25 pounds heavier than I am today. And I said, if she can do a marathon, I'm going to do a marathon. She's very inspiring. So I did a marathon and then said, I want to do something different. I want to mix it up. So I'm going to do the Escape from Alcatraz. So my first triathlon is like, jump in the bay and then swim 2 miles to the shore, and then
No way.
hike the hills of San Francisco, and then go run on the beach, run in sand, and run up these hills and all that. So I did it. And
I'm going to do the hardest triathlon out there, and let's just start there.
Yeah. So this is the definitely the hardest one in San Francisco. I crashed my bike about 4 miles, and so I was bleeding. I have a photo on the wall of me bleeding, hands, arms, and legs. And I finished the bike with a flat tire. The last 4 miles I rode bleeding with a flat tire, and then I ran 8 miles bleeding. And a lot of people are like, "Are you okay?" Because I was kind of dripping blood, and I'm like, "Yeah, the sharks though were pretty rough today, weren't they?" So I just kept that positive mental attitude.
How the sharks in Northern California?
A lot of sharks in the bay, and so I went across the finish line, and they're like, "You want to go to the Medtown?" I'm like, "Hell no, I want a beer." So my dad, who's a pharmacist, is getting the merthiolate out. And, so I did that, and I said, "Damn, that was so fun. I want to do this again." And then I worked my way up. I said, "I'm going to do a half Ironman," and then in the next year, and then I do New Year's resolutions, half Ironman. Then the next year, I'm going to do a full Ironman. And then I went to the emergency room after my full Ironman because I didn't have enough sodium in me.
Oh, you're kidding.
That was so much fun. I want to qualify for the World Championship. So my second Ironman, I qualify. I won. I did the executive challenge. I compete against all the CEOs. I won. So I went to the World Championship in Kona and did that.
Nice.
And my dad and I, we have rental houses, and so we went and stayed at our house in Kona. And my dad got to put the lay on me going across the finish line. So yeah, I'm still doing triathlons now, doing half Ironman. Just did the Ironman World Championship in St. George for the half Ironman, and I came in 35th in the world. So
wow, 35th in the world.
Yes,
that is amazing.
Yeah,
I love the fact that your company has a personal trainer, nutritionist, and supports that part of it, because I would tell you it just keeps your mind and your brain strong, right?
We've had several people have competed in duathlons or triathlons. If they can't run, they can do the swim, bike, that aquathlon, whatever whatever you want to do, or just do a swim, or anything to stay active, but good work-life balance.
So what were the key things as you started out? You decided like, hey, I need to get healthy. What were the key things to your success? I love this. This is probably my favorite part.
No, definitely. So first of all, find someone you love. That's mission critical. My beautiful wife, my two kids, focusing on their success, and now they're coming back to contribute, but focus on family, that work-life balance, having that, whatever that is, and it could be acting, it could be singing, it could be musical instruments, certainly staying fit, eating relatively healthy, and definitely moderating, drink wine, a lot of red wine, as opposed to too much of the hard stuff. And it's moderation is key across the board.
Sure.
And I was always worried about eating too much. I eat a lot of sushi, and I was reading about mercury, and so I went and met somebody who was the worldwide expert on mercury, happened to be here. And she said, you don't eat that much of anything. It's like, you might have a lot of grapes, but that'd be about it. Diversify what you're putting in your body, but definitely pay attention to what you're putting in your body, and focus on, healthy eating.
Okay. So Tony, a little bit more about you. I want to know a little bit about sort of what you do when you're not working. Tell me your favorite sport today.
Well, I really love triathlon, but I enjoy watching my daughter play soccer. I enjoyed watching my son play baseball. So watching your kids' sports is one of the most special things. Being able to coach your kids is even more amazing, which I had the opportunity to coach both my son and my daughter. Not anymore, but that was the most passionate thing. The pictures of the kids in their on their sports teams, softball, baseball, soccer, are all up on the wall here. Coached them in basketball even a little bit, but coaching when you're watching a sport is, I like being interactive. I can't stand sitting there and watching golf. But participating, and of course in triathlon, you're doing all kinds of different things. Running the Boston Marathon, running the greatest marathon of all is the New York Marathon. So running the New York Marathon was that's definitely, it was incredible.
I also love your advice on coaching your kids and watching your kids play sports. Anybody listening to this, if you were not making time for that, it's just probably the most exciting, interesting, important part of my life. It's probably
David
looking
Weekley,
back,
shout out
times
to
I enjoyed the most.
shout out to Tom Lewis and David Weekley. I did the merger of their two companies. I got David really into Phoenix, but both of them were involved with the Positive Coaching Alliance, and so they
neat.
be on the board of the Positive Coaching Alliance.
Super neat. Okay, so favorite pastime.
Favorite pastime. Well, it's weird because having just spent a couple things. I'm going to go play golf with my son in Scotland. I was able to go play with my mother before she passed away. I played with my dad twice in Scotland. So certainly, I'm going to give a shout out for golf. I'm a member at the Olympic Club. I worked with Clint Eastwood and Arnold Palmer and Peter Ueberroth to bring Pebble Beach back into American hands. So golf is, or life is a metaphor for golf, or golf is a metaphor for life.
Any fun Clint Eastwood stories?
Clint is just he's unassuming, down to earth. He came to the closing dinner, and of course you were allowed to bring your spouses. So many women, and there's just a line of, let me take a picture, let me talk to you. But if I've seen him in Sun Valley, Idaho, skiing, just walking downtown. Hey, Clint, how you doing? Hey, what's happening? And
nice.
Same thing in Carmel, or if you're at the Hog's Breath, or he's puts his pants on like you and I do, and incredible American.
It sounds like a great man. Yeah, very involved, certainly. Where's your favorite place to vacation, speaking of which?
Well, we have several, but we really love St. Bart's. We did our honeymoon there. What an incredible experience. And then for those who, you can YouTube it, do the flight into St. Bart's. It's really fascinating. But then Stone Harbor, New Jersey, and then the Big Island, Hawaii.
Why Stone Harbor, New Jersey?
So Alyssa, my wife, is Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvanians all go to the. So giving a shout out to Marty Connor from Toll, my near neighbor, and on 7 Mile Island, Avalon and Stone Harbor. So it's a really special place.
Nice. What would you say, as you sort of built your career, top sort of tools or keys to your success?
Well, surround yourself with good people. Working with Art, I mentioned him. John Chisty, our great CFO. We have a West Coast managing director, a guy by the name of Glenn Martin, who's absolutely incredible, wonderful gentleman, and a dear friend. But just strong people within the organization. That's super critical. And so surround yourself with good people that have different skill sets, at the right level of expertise, good work-life balance, that PMA effect, that positive mental attitude. Work with smart people in the industry like Zonda. We use great people like Tim Sullivan, and this isn't lip service. And so we definitely have had a very successful relationship working together. And so it takes a village it takes a village to build a village. So working with the best consultants, the best people in the industry that all have that positive mental attitude, the best communities too, pro development.
Sure, no, absolutely. Heroes and mentors. Who are your heroes kind of growing up, and who are they today?
Well, my parents. My mother was an incredible force to make sure that I kept mostly on the straight and narrow. So
You did go to Berkeley, though. I mean,
yeah, I was my brother and sister kept going. St. Mary's, Santa Clara. They went like 16 years of Catholic education, and I
me
went.
too.
I was the oldest and went with the heathens at Cal. So
Same.
and then yeah. So my mom she worked for the Sisters of the Holy Family. She worked in foundation. I sat on the Sisters of the Holy Family advisory board for 20 plus years, 20 years after she passed away, just about but she's big at giving back. We have also Giving Back Society. So we have it's a scholarship in her memory that gets money to disadvantaged kids that want to go on to college. And so we do that. So
Great, Tony.
giving back, but mom was, she was there, and that party, that event planner, that ability to organize events and things like that. And then of course my dad teaching me a lot, especially around business, working in the pharmacy, working in the retail. That strong work ethic is instilled in me, and so that was important. Partnering with, like I said, guys like Art, a lot of wonderful guys in this industry that I've worked with over the years and learned from. God rest his soul, Larry Johnson. What an incredible force and an incredible man, and just one of those good friends. And so I think about people like that. And then we've had good capital partners over the years too, some of which I've mentioned here, and that have also had a very positive influence. They've instilled they've believed in me. So that's been a vote of confidence, which is, you need to have confidence in business to be successful too.
So you were raised pretty much by, I think our moms might know each other in heaven for sure. My mom was a saint too, very involved, very much like your mom. So you were raised kind of by a saint who was super involved in compassionate, acts and helping people constantly. You had a father who was extremely successful in almost everything he touched, it sounds like, including his kids for that matter. And then super active, like stay fit, and all of that stuff gives you kind of mental clarity and keeps you focused and things like that. And then you surrounded yourself with just brilliant people. I mean, that sounds like a great recipe to success for me, for sure.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think those are there's it's a lifetime, but you got a limited time on your podcast.
Well, and it seems like you have kids that are going to be equally successful.
Well, that's I'm very blessed. It's a great team. It's not just my kids, but I think about the young people in our organization. My goal is for them it's not just it's the guys who are running the organization, running the company. For me, I'm just handing the reins over, and they can take the reins as much as they like over time. And our company is a C corporation. It's meant to live forever, and our people within the organization share in the profits from our projects that we work on. And I think about, even I had my good friend Hector Calderon, who worked with me. He and I worked we worked together for 19 years.
Wow.
So his letter, you can't really see it, but I have his letter right there where he said, "Hey, look, I've got the opportunity to go be the chief investment officer for John Pritzker, which is one of the Hyatt family members. He's running billions of dollars as the chief investment officer for John Pritzker." So, if we grow someone and they get an incredible proposal like that, I mean, I was sitting in this chair, he was sitting there, Martin Luther King Day last year. He said, "Look, this is the opportunity I've got." And we were both crying. I'm like, "You got to take the deal." And that's an incredible, and we're still partners to this day, but you're growing up your people, and they'll either grow within our organization, or they will find their best destiny somewhere beyond here, where we've built a great foundation for them to grow and further their careers.
I think that's a great mentor and leader, somebody who can teach and help the people around them grow, but also can hug them before they go on to their next adventure and know that, that's healthy and normal and that's okay. That's probably the hardest part, I think, as a parent too, right? We mentor our kids to make a difference, and then as they leave, but if you did it right, they're going to keep coming back, right?
That's the hope.
That's the hope for sure. Well, where do you think the future is going to go, Tony? Any big advice for the future?
Well, I mean, we're in a cyclical business, so trees don't grow to the sky, and you have to be able to peer around corners and be prepared. It's the Boy Scout motto. Expect the unexpected. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But work with it's the right capital stack on a lot of things when you're working on something. It's prudent capital. Work with, and again, surrounding yourself with the right people. Where are we going to go from here? I think it's, again, the U.S. I think my feeling is that we're going to go as a democratic people and grow democracy here, and you're going to see a nation that's growing and thriving. We've got our largest generation, the millennials, and we've got a tremendous amount of housing to build, and that's exciting for all of us that are involved in the industry.
Right. No, I agree with you. Quick word association. Tell me what you think of when I say community.
This is housing Americans. This is, so that's our community is that's what we build.
What about home?
It's kind of funny when you say home. I mean, home is where the heart is.
Right. I totally agree.
Quality. Important, but not the most important. Sometimes better is the enemy of the good.
Totally agree. What about inspirational?
Inspirational.
I think inspiration and inspirational are two different things. So I'm going to ask you to give me your response for both.
Inspirational. I'm gonna tell you, it's our clients that are doing what they're doing. Some of our clients are, and I won't get into names, but it's just so amazing what they're doing out there today, especially in maybe a more challenging environment right now, and managing everything from supply chain. So inspirational are home builders today. It's not lip service. Than others, I work tirelessly for them, but inspirational is, I think, about in home builders. And then for me, inspiration is our people. The inspiration that gets me out of bed in the morning. That's the inspiration. Is I'm gonna get in and go interact with this incredible, unique set of skilled people. So that's my inspiration for getting out of bed in the morning.
I love it. It takes a lot to make change, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but with the right leader, it really can make a difference.
Adapt or die.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Loved the conversation. You have so much that you're doing and that you've done, and it's so interesting to see all the different clients you have, and all that you've made a difference with. It's such a great, when you look at our business, it's such a huge legacy to leave behind. And when you look at all the stuff that you've touched, I mean, my goodness, it's a lot. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for opening your doors and telling us what you do. Again, good luck with everything in the future. And I can't wait to see the next generation too.
Thank Mollie. Great job with these podcasts. Great set of questions. It's so great to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you too. And good luck in 23. It'll be interesting.
Thank you again for joining us. This is Mollie Carmichael, and I hope you enjoyed this series. Please hit like if you liked today's broadcast and subscribe if you'd like to hear more from the best and the brightest in our industry. Take care, everyone, and I hope you join us again next time.